Hello, Hollywood Times viewers. Judy Shields here. Today we welcome one half of the country music group and lifestyle band War Hippies, comprised of combat veterans including Donnie Rees, and was formed in 2022. The group brings a combined 25 years of recording and touring experience and 20 plus million streams to War Hippies project. Scooter Brown, who served 4 years, 3 months, 2 tours overseas, and 1 tour of combat in Iraq as a United States Marine. Thanks for joining us today.
Hey, thanks for having me.
I have to start off saying from the bottom of my heart, thank you for your service. I don't know how you do it.
Oh, oh, thank you very much. It seemed like a lifetime ago, but it was one of the most amazing times of my life. I love doing it, and honestly, I probably would have retired if I wouldn't have learned how to play a guitar in the Marine Corps.
You would still be there, huh?
I might actually. I loved the Marine Corps, and but then when music gets in your blood and it attaches to you, there's just something about it that it's hard to let go of. It's like when I got back from Iraq, I was going to re-enlist, and I just kept thinking, like, man, can I do anything with this music? And just decided last minute to get out and pursue it.
Well, before we talk about all these other things, well, when did you first pick up that guitar then?
So I'm gonna date myself a little bit. This is probably I joined the Marine Corps in 1999. Um,
Oh,
I
wow.
probably started dabbling with it in 2000. Um, and so I did a deployment overseas, Westpac in 2001. When 3 days before we got back, we were sitting off the coast of California. I was stationed at San Diego at Camp Pendleton, and it was when the Twin Towers got hit. And
Oh,
so we got off the boat, and then we just started training. And then I was in the invasion of Iraq in 2003.
oof.
Um, and so, it kind of was like I kind of came back from that, and I was gonna uh, I was gonna go to Bridgeport, California, and be a mountain survival instructor for a few years for my reenlistment. And then just kind of last minute, I was just like, man, I became a Marine. I got back from combat, and I got my wits about me. Maybe it's time to move on, try something else. And uh, so I got out and moved down to Texas. Was down there for about 10 or 12 years. Um, Started off with a guy named Cody Johnson.
Oh,
Of we met on MySpace, and we
wow.
both wrote his first Texas radio hit called "Texas Kind of Way." And um, and then Charlie Daniels took me under his wing, and now I've been in Nashville for the last 8 years.
Wow, what a mentor that must have been for you.
It was amazing.
Isn't he amazing? He's such a he when I've met him a couple of times and he just treats you like family. You're like, oh my goodness.
One of the things I loved about Charlie was it didn't matter if he knew you for 3 minutes or 30 years, you got the same from him. Didn't matter. He was
Oh,
awesome.
how lucky. Thank you for sharing that. Well, we're here to
Yeah.
talk about your newest single, I assume with 3 daughters. It was easy for you
Hmm.
to write. Maybe like father, like daughter. It's a touching tribute to the bond between fathers and daughters. Of course, this was going to be written someday, which I guess it happened now. So let's talk about that. That's an amazing song. And if you don't mind, I want to, for our viewers who I know you're going to go out and get this, download it right away, especially if you know, have your dad still around, or if he's not. My dad's in heaven now, a couple of years ago. But this song really touched my heart. I hope I can do this without crying. I'm going to read a couple verses that touched my heart. Starts out with, of course, I can't sing, but I'm going to just read it. Because you're wild like a river, don't take no advice. My dad always said I was wild. I told you once or 1,000 times, it just never sank in. You had to touch that stove again. I did touch the stove again. Old soul, free spirit, always ready to run. My dad always called me a free spirit. Loves her mama like the morning loves a rising sun. Ain't that the truth? Just who you are. I guess the apple don't fall too far. She's tough, hard-headed. Thank God I got her, like father, like daughter. I tell you, I'm gonna cry. There's no daughter out there that can't relate to this song, and I just don't know how you could even sing it. It's amazing.
You know, it's funny because as we've been playing it live. So I wrote this song a few years ago with a buddy of mine, Alex Dooley, when I had my publishing deals, and it's an idea that I'd had, and I really didn't know what I was going to do with it. And I first of all, what I was gonna say is like singing it now. I still have I get choked up sometimes. The people are coming up to the front of the stage holding, their phones up with pictures of their daughters, and uh,
Mm.
it's just it's just cool, like to be able to, as a songwriter, to draw emotion, especially off of something that is real to you. Um, wrote the song, didn't know if I was ever going to release it for anything, but I wanted to do it for my daughters. And uh, I actually had written a song a long time ago when I was still in the Texas scene. Well, I think on one of my first albums called Daddy's Little Girl.
Mm.
And at some point, as I have four kids altogether, and the first three are girls. Um, at one point, one of them asked, like, "Hey, Logan got a song. When are we going to get our songs?" And I'm like, "Well, I'm going to have to do another one where it's all three of them, a little piece of each one of them." Um, so yeah, I just when we wrote it, I loved it. My wife loved it, and then kind of sat on it for, I don't know, probably a good 4 years or so before actually cutting it. And I'm just so glad that we did.
Oh, and also this came out, folks, June 14th. So you can get it now. And I'm telling you, get it now. Send it to your dad. I know Father's Day's already passed, but just get it. It's an amazing, amazing song. There's also a video. Let's talk about that video. Who produced it? Is it your daughters that are in it? Talk about that.
Yeah, yeah. So Paul Gehring, who is our drummer for War Hippies, he also is our cinematographer. He produces all of the War Hippies videos, um, from Hangman to this one. And he had this really cool idea is, since it was about my girls, of just kind of like this silhouetted
Oh,
thing. And then inside of me, we basically took old cell phone videos of my wife and of the girls growing up, and just placed them in the whole song. And it was just really cool. It came out beautiful. And it's cool to have something personal like that on a video as well, something for my kids to look back on one day,
yeah.
and you know say say that I did that.
Yeah, that's exciting. So our viewers can find that on your YouTube channel, which is what?
War Hippies.
Okay.
Well, yeah, and then you can find like all of just warhippies.com has links to just about everything you ever could ever want to find on us.
That's we always want to know your social media, that's for sure, because we want to be able
Yeah.
to get your stuff. So let's see here. You've got a lot of things to talk about. Looks like you've had 6 million streams across platforms and counting. I want to talk to you about your debut at the Grand Ole Opry in 2019. What was that like to stand in that circle?
That so if seriously a full circle moment going back to my Marine Corps thing. My goal was to do 20 years and retire. And when you go to Marine Corps boot camp, when you get off the bus, you stand on the yellow footprints. They're like the famous yellow footprints before you go in and everything starts. And it's,
Wow.
uh, you know, uh, I got asked to do the Grand Ole Opry actually by Charlie Daniels. He surprised me with a phone call, and he was talking about the weather. And then all of a sudden he said, I'm not good at this small talk. I want to see if you and the boys want to have your debut on the Grand Ole Opry in July. And I didn't realize it till a couple of days after that. It was almost 20 years to the date that I stepped on those yellow footprints in the Marine Corps, that I stepped inside the circle of the Grand Ole Opry.
No way.
So just how far that had come. Um,
Oh,
but it was an amazing experience. I've gotten to do three different Opry shows, one at the Ryman, and they're magical. And the fact that one I had to follow Charlie Daniels, uh,
whoa.
which this shouldn't even be allowed anywhere. The guy was just incredible. It was. I got to share it uh, with my wife and kids. They got to go backstage and
Aw,
um,
stand on
you
the
know they
side and
couldn't.
watch Daddy and the husband, right?
Yeah, it was amazing. So um, it doesn't matter how. I don't think it matters how many times you do that. It's amazing every time.
So were you in the dressing room with Charlie in the back? Because I actually went in June and got to go through the artist entrance and go backstage for the first time. You know, I've been there many times, but never backstage to the artist entrance. I went to interview Exile, and their publicist brought me in, and I still to this day am just shaking, you know, to be able to be backstage and go to all the different rooms, Roy Acuff, Minnie Pearl, you know. And
Hmm.
so, did you go in with Charlie when you came in?
So they have a room specifically for people that are having their debut.
Okay,
So I was in that room, and Charlie had one of the rooms that was more up front towards the backstage.
yeah.
Um, and I was trying to think. I should know off the top of my head who all was there, but uh, ended up meeting a ton of great people.
It's amazing how many people are there, and you walk around the corner and you're like, oh, oh, oh. And you do forget because you're overwhelmed.
Yeah, it's like you got the people that are performing, and then you just got sometimes people just show up, and it's like all of a sudden, hey, there's Garth.
Yeah,
You
right.
know,
Yeah, that's what happened to us. Garth and Trisha show up. Okay.
yep.
You know.
Um, so yeah, uh, it was awesome. Looking forward to the next time I get to do it.
Yeah, you should write yourself some little notebook about that experience to give to your daughters. You know, so that they always have that about what dad experienced. The Grand Ole Opry is a lot to those in the music business like you. So I think that would be pretty awesome, some type of a letter to give to your daughters to have for, you know,
Yeah,
whole life. You know, that's a great experience of yours, you know.
no, absolutely. My dad, um, he's told me this for a long time now, but I'm 43 now, and it's kind of funny. A lot of guys and get success, and people think like, where'd this dude come from? It's overnight success, and don't realize that it's been a 15, 20-year progress to get to where you're at. And my dad has been begging me to start journaling
Yeah.
because of just all the places that I've been, the people that I've met along my own journey has just been really incredible. And um, sometimes I even forget about
Yeah.
situations where I'm like, gosh, I need to write this stuff down just so that my kids one day can go through it and be like, oh my gosh. Um, so yeah, that's a great idea.
How did the War Hippies come about and talk about Donnie and the name, the band name? I'm assuming War Hippies.
Yeah, so I mean, originally it kind of came about as I've had the idea for it, and I actually had given an interview to a magazine, um, and the interviewer asked how I would describe myself, and I kind of paused and I was walking around. I live about 30 minutes east of Nashville on about 6 acres,
Yeah.
hills, trees. It's beautiful. It's my little oasis,
Yeah.
and I walk around in shorts and bare feet, like because I'm like big into like grounding and
Yeah.
um and energy and all that stuff. And so I was just kind of sitting out there just talking to her on the phone, and I was like, I don't know, I'm kind of a war hippie. And she's like, what do you mean by that? And I was like, well, I'm a combat vet and Marine, but now I'm kind of like, you know, into meditation and grounding and just trying to live you know, a, a good life and uh, living by the philosophy of kind of live and let live.
Yeah.
Um, just want everybody to be cool to one another, be kind to one another. And uh, I said, and I paused and I said, but I'll still stick an X in someone's face if you come and try to take from me, like the peace that
Yes.
I found.
Yeah.
And she was like, I've never heard anything like this before. And when the article came out, it said it's self-proclaimed war hippie Scooter Brown. And when I saw it in the headline, I was like, oh, I got to hold on to that. That's got to be something. Obviously I didn't make it up. It came from the 70s of Vietnam era guys that came out and protested Vietnam. And, um,
Yeah.
you know, eh, for me, it's a lifestyle of not so much of the dope smoking hippie side.
Yeah.
It's the
Yeah.
it's more of a mentality of just kind of this peace and love and trying to live as clean of a life as you possibly can and respect life in general and the things around us.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when I met Donnie, I I just said, hey, I got this idea. And, he was in the Ohio National Guard. He served in Iraq in 2004 as a mechanic. And I said, man, it'd be cool to do it with another guy that, served overseas in Iraq or Afghanistan. And Donnie just happened to be a really great violinist is on top of it, So um, we started kind of just doing a handful of shows, and it grew legs. And then a video got out to Travis Tritt. We're
Awesome.
booked on the same agency when I was doing Scooter Brown Band.
Yeah.
Um, and Travis hit us up and was like, hey, what's up with this War Hippies thing? Are you guys doing it for real? And like, well, I'm not really sure why. What's up? He said, well, if you're doing it for real, I want to take you guys out on tour. I love what you're doing. And so we're like, yeah, we're doing it for real. So we whipped together our first album, and then we went on the Can't Miss tour with Travis and Chris Jansen.
Oh,
Um, so that was our first like tour. We dabbled in some markets, but that was like the first tour that we did that got us in front of a lot of people. Travis's crowd was amazing to us, and really just helped get the wheels moving.
well, thank you, Travis.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, he's an
yeah, yeah.
amazing.
Travis Tritt is a huge piece of why we've had the success that we've had. It's 100%. He's put us in a lot of his people, and they've been amazing to us.
Well, we thank you to the journalist who named your band and
Yeah.
Travis Tritt for bringing you to us. So it's totally amazing. So, now that you're doing this, what have you been doing before that? You said you had your band before, Scooter Brown
Yeah,
Band and
I was touring a Scooter Brown Band. Before Charlie passed away in 2020, I was
mm,
um, uh, doing a lot of dates with Charlie with Marshall Tucker Band. I
yeah.
was doing dates with Travis Tritt. I was on that USA Network,
Yes.
Real Country. I think there was one season of that.
Yeah.
Uh, and then 2020 was supposed to be the entire year was called the Fire on the Mountain Tour, and
Oh,
it was myself, Marshall Tucker Band, and Charlie Daniels headlining. And then of course that went away, and then Charlie passed away,
oh,
and didn't do a whole lot of more dates. So, when the War Hippies thing came up, it was during COVID. It was like, man, let's find a way to be creative. And I really wanted to get back to the songwriting aspect and telling a story
yeah.
without all the noise around, because before I was more like Southern rock or rock country.
Yeah.
And I love that stuff, but it drowned out the words. And I love telling a story.
Yeah.
And that's what War Hippies is. We're storytellers.
Yeah. And that's what, like you said, hippies. I mean, today is what we need, more hippies, more of laid back, take your shoes off, love yourself, thank God, and love each other. And so it's a great to be a hippie right now, so War Hippies is
Oh yeah.
pretty awesome going forward.
It's kind of it's almost like a yin and a yang kind of
Yeah.
thing. It's there's an old Chinese proverb, or I think you might have been China, it might have come from anywhere for all I know. But it's what is, I'd rather be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war. So it's this
Um,
mindset of kind of always being prepared and being in the mindset and being capable, but
yeah.
not necessarily that that's what you want, but you have the training and the mindset that if it ever that had to occur, then you could uh, protect your family and the people around you and
Around
things
you.
like that. So.
Yeah. So like I said, we thanked you for your service, but I thank God that, you traded that particular item in for a guitar and you're going to give us amazing songs, because songwriting is really storytellers. And when we have storytellers writing songs, then they're always going to be number one hits, and you're going to be
Mhm.
around for a while as the War Hippies. I read here too that you co-wrote Valor with American sniper Chris Kyle. What was that like?
So Chris and I became friends in 2012 at
Mhm.
a veterans retreat in Colorado. He actually came. I've got a 501(c)(3)
Okay.
in Colorado called Base Camp 40 Warriors in the Wild. Um, and we do hunting and fishing trips and outdoor excursions for veterans, basically just to get them in nature via hunting and fishing.
Yeah.
And Chris came up and we hit it off like right off the bat. In fact, when he first when we were first introduced, he said, "Yeah, I heard there was some jarhead up here that thought he could sing." And I looked back at Chris and I said, I heard there was some squid up here that thought he could write books. I hope he brought a few extras in case I need to start a fire later." And he just smiled at me and he goes, "I think we're going to be friends." And so we had a really good time. And he actually lived while I was still living in Texas. He lived 3 minutes from my sister-in-law in Midlothian, Texas. And so I started going over and hanging out, and we had a conversation at a little bar in Colorado. Um, Basically, this bar owner was trying to sell me and Chris's bar up in Fruita, Colorado, and we were messing with them, saying that we were going to buy it, uh, and then we were like, "Well, what are we going to name it?" And we came up with a bunch of dumb names, and then Chris was like, "We should call it Valor to pay homage to all of our brothers and sisters."
Oh,
Um, and it just stuck with me. So when we got back to Texas, I hit him up and I said, "Hey, throw me some lines, throw me some ideas, and I want to put a song together." And um, I worked on it for a while, got about two-thirds of the way through it, and then he was actually killed um, before I finished it.
oh,
And
that was
Taya, his wife, called me and was wanted me to sing at the funeral at his funeral. Um, and I finished the song and I sang that song at his funeral at Cowboy Stadium.
that was the saddest story, his story, and I didn't realize you were part of that house. How sad that was for you.
Yeah, he was a great dude. I actually got the opportunity. They released a memorial edition of American Sniper. It's on a black cover, and I wrote 2 pages in the back of that,
Mm,
um, just telling fun little stories that we had together. And um, the
mm,
thing I loved about Chris was that a lot of people could see that would come off as maybe like a little cocky or arrogant, but he was to an extent, but he wanted any light that shined on him
yeah,
to reflect off and shine on other people. Whatever notoriety he got, he hoped it would go to a place to where it brought up more awareness to veterans issues.
yeah.
So
That's that's oof, that's touching, and it's great that you do a lot of, the charity that you have must help a lot of the veterans to be able to come back. And it's gonna be hard for a lot of them to come back, and not everybody treats them like they should be treated. I just hate hearing all these sad stories about veterans and what we don't do for them. And I can imagine them coming back and then you getting them into these excursions where they're, doing all this kind of stuff out there, fishing and outdoor hunting,
mhm.
to give them a different reason to have a rifle, or a firearm. That's got to be really something for them. Do you feel that way about that?
Yeah, and I think that really, I mean, I can say for me that there was a spot. The reason why we started it where we started it was a friend of mine took me to a spot on a ranch that he was managing, and it was one of the most beautiful overlooks that I've ever seen in my life. Like, and I grew up in Colorado. Um,
Well,
I've been to 38 different countries, been to every state in this union, and th this is still one of my top three, just the most amazing places. And
hmm,
it was the first time I felt truly at peace,
hmm,
like at home, at peace, like that my mind was just like, since I've been home from Iraq. And so I asked the guy, I said, "Hey, can you share this with people?" I was like, I think more guys need to and gals need to feel this,
get
like
grounded,
get grounded in like nature. So like for
Yeah.
me, the hunting and the fishing was the avenue to bring people into the wilderness, but really it's about the wilderness. It's about being in that and feeling that and um, uh, being around a campfire at night with other people that shared similar experiences that you did,
Yeah.
and being able to uh, get stuff off your chest, like, and and if you end up harvesting an animal on a hunt, um, that's great, but that's not what it's about. It's really cool.
And what state is this in?
It's based out of Colorado,
Okay.
but we send guys all over the country.
Nice.
We actually have a group of guys right now in Alaska doing a fishing trip right now.
Wow.
Um, so yeah, it's pretty fun.
So that's base camp for 40 Warriors in the Wild. How can our viewers help out? Do you have ways of being able to help you?
Yeah, absolutely. Website is bc40hunts.org. And you can uh, if you're a veteran, first responder, Gold Star family, you can sign up to get on the waiting list for a hunt. It's got ways to donate. Should have our schedule up of events that we do for fundraising stuff. We don't do a ton of fundraising,
Okay.
um, but like as far as events, a lot of it is just word of mouth and people going to the website and sending in a donation or writing a check.
Okay. And then
Um,
how about volunteers? If it's in different states, can we sign up for be a volunteer if you need it?
yeah, absolutely. Yep.
Okay. Let's talk about all these different things, military things that you do to help raise money and awareness for veterans. Talk
Yeah.
about that.
We've worked with a bunch of different organizations separately over the years. Um, I mean, everything from Lone Survivor Foundation, Chris Kyle Frog Foundation, Boot Campaign, Special Operators Transition Foundation, Shepherd's Men, Base Camp 40. Um, we try to do as much as we can with what we can.
I'll appreciate, what you do for the veterans, and the people that run those organizations have to realize how special they are if and when you can help them.
And honestly, just you being able to use our platform on stage and our social media
Yeah.
just to help bring light to causes is part of the awesome thing that we get to do with this is like having that backstory, getting to use that platform to do good with it.
Talk about the band. It's you and Donnie, but do you have an actual band that plays other instruments? And if so, who are they and what do they play?
Donnie, so we have like War Hippies has guitar, violin, and drums, um, and a little bit of piano here and there for like our full
Yeah.
act. And then, with I haven't really done any Scooter Brown shows, really since War Hippies took off. And I did that for a really long time.
Yeah.
Um, but that's kind of the gist of it is it's kind of funny because we'll go places that like, man, you guys sound like way more than what's actually on stage. Like it's just a really big
I know. That's why I was
sound.
asking. It's like I hear your records. I'm
Um,
like, oh my gosh, it's got an orchestra in the background.
yeah, well, Donnie, he does like stack orchestral kind of stuff back there, but pulls it off on stage.
It's great to have great lyrics, when you're being a songwriter, but it's always amazing to add that music to it. You guys do an amazing job. Congratulations.
Thank you. It's cool to be able to or kind of add a little bit of an orchestral um, element to country music because you always hear it like on the fiddle aspect, but not so much of the pretty violin.
Yeah.
And I think it's part of the thing of why we sound different. Like there's not really anything that sounds like War Hippies. Um, and that's one of the most important things for me is trying to find a way to say the same thing that's been said a million times differently. Every topic's been written about, every chord's been used, but how do you do it in a way that somebody goes, I've never heard it like this before?
I can't imagine how you songwriters and musicians do that kind of stuff. It's like, wow,
Yeah.
it's amazing. I have to say, I'm a huge, huge, huge Randy Travis fan from way back when he was here in LA and stuff. And you did there was a music video, Promises. Talk about that. What was that like?
So Promises, was a song that I can remember probably still like in elementary school. I would I listened to that old 8 by 10 album, which was one of my favorite Randy Travis albums. I just would like put it on repeat and listen to it, going to sleep. And uh, it had always been one of my favorite songs. And when we got to talking about doing a cover, I was like, man, I've always wanted to cut this song. And so we did it. And actually, I met Randy Travis at Chris Kyle's funeral. Um,
Oh,
he, I came off the stage and he was backstage, and this is before he had a stroke.
oh, yeah.
And we talked and hit it off, and my wife and um, him and Mary ended up meeting for dinner a few days later, and then
Nice.
we wound up at his ranch and hanging out, and then they just became really good friends. He
Yeah.
came out to one of my shows, and then it's probably like 3 or 4 months after I met him that he had the stroke.
Mm.
Um, and so we would visit him in the hospital, and we just had stayed friends with him ever since. And he's in fact, Randy Travis came out to my debut at the Grand Ole Opry.
Oh,
So like
a friend.
kind of wild. And when we did Promises, to me, Randy Travis is top three greatest country vocalist of all time.
Yes.
Um, it probably is my number one. But I know that you could, fight me over George Jones and
Oh yeah. Randy
uh,
is he's up here all by himself. Sorry, everyone else. Love Merle Haggard's
yeah,
my favorite songwriter, singer kind of,
yeah.
but Randy is just whoo,
Um,
it's a blessing that we still have him. And it's so terrible what
Absolutely.
happened, but he's out there again. Thank God he's still alive, but he's out there, just cut a record using kind of AI and fighting over that. So good for Randy. And I'm glad that you got to meet him like that. He's a special guy, and Mary's amazing.
No, but when Randy, when we sent that to him, it was kind of nerve-wracking because you're sending a song by one of your musical heroes that he wrote and sang, and like, man, I hope he doesn't think this sucks. And um, him and Mary texted us back after they listened to it. It was the coolest response. It was one line, and it just said, "We believe you." And it
Oh,
was like listening to the what that song was written about. They're like, "We believe it," the way that you sang it. That was a really cool moment.
yeah, that was out in February. Good for you. I'm glad you got to do something with your hero. That's always an amazing thing, and something else to write about.
Yeah, and then we were like, well, let's just wing it and ask if he'll do a video with us. Like, just so when we shot the video for that, we actually shot that in my backyard at my fire pit, and Randy and Mary are sitting there, and I've got my kids and some friends, and we're just sitting around a campfire and singing that song. And it was the most amazing thing at the end, like not planned. We couldn't have scripted this better. Um, Randy just like shed a tear at the
Oh,
end. And
oh,
Paul came up to me afterwards. He goes, "You're never gonna believe what I just got on camera." He's like, "I was filming Randy, and like right when the song ended, a tear just came out." And I was like, and it obviously made the video, and it was just blown
yeah.
away.
It's like,
It's
did he
awesome.
put a drop in his eye? That's what people want to think. It's like that's for
No,
real. You know.
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, he felt it. It was awesome.
oh my gosh. Yes, we will see if maybe put the link up for that so people can watch it. That's amazing. So give us your social media again once more.
Everything is under War Hippies. Everything should be verified with a blue check mark that we use. But if you want the direct links, just go to warhippies.com. YouTube, it's all up there.
Um, Before we go, I wanted to talk to you about this merchandising partnership you did with the veteran-owned Nine Line Apparel. What is that all about?
So Nine Line, the guys, Tyler Merritt, the owner of Nine Line, was a 160th pilot, special operations, flew like the Black Hawks.
Wow.
Um, he started Nine Line Apparel probably a good at least 10 or 12 years ago, maybe even longer. But it's a veteran-owned company, and we've been friends for a good long time. And I was like, hey man, why don't you do War Hippies merch? It just makes sense to do veteran own, with veteran own, like let's
Yeah,
support each other. And they were like, heck yeah, let's do it. So all of our merchandise right now is designed and printed by Nine Line. They help us promote it, and they do an amazing job.
great. So we will all go to warhippies.com and get your merch. We love merch.
Get it? Gotta
Get
put
it.
gotta put diesel in the bus and diapers on the babies.
All right, we'll do that instead of sending you the diapers. That's amazing. What's your tour look like the rest of the year?
The rest of the year is looking really good. We're all over the place. We're actually heading down to Georgia, and then we turning around and going straight to Colorado. Look at some shows in Colorado, Idaho, Utah, Montana, the Dakotas, kind of all that area, and then we're in Washington and maybe Oregon, towards the end of the summer into September. Um, but yeah, it's looking really good. I love being out west. We travel with our motorcycles, so whenever we're not playing, we just ride motorcycles around, and I just love riding out west. So I'm really looking forward to getting some wind therapy.
What kind of bike do you ride? Harleys?
Yeah, so we're actually at the moment sponsored by Harley, and so they gave Donnie and I, they gave me a Heritage soft tail,
Nice.
um, and which I really like. I thought it was going to be too small for me. I'm
Big
six
guy.
three, about 215 plus pounds or so, but I'm actually really surprised. I love the bike. I'm probably more of a road king kind of guy though.
Yeah.
Uh, Need a little something bigger and something I
Yeah.
can. I do a lot of miles. I don't bar hop. I jump on my bike and ride for 500 miles and
Wow.
get up, and I go ride more. So uh but yeah, it's great. It's been a cool partnership. We've gotten to play the Harley Davidson birthday last year. We're doing it this year. We're doing
Nice.
Sturgis this year.
Oh,
So yeah, it's fun. Yeah,
to
I
get out there.
love.
Be safe. You got to watch for everyone else, though. No one watches for
Oh
you.
yeah,
So be safe.
absolutely. I love my wife hopping on the back, and it's just getting to
Yes.
go out for
Holding you.
um go out on some rides. So
Yeah,
it's
that's
definitely
great.
fun, but you're right. It's not you usually, it's all everybody else around you.
Well, we appreciate you taking the time to talk to us here at the Hollywood Times. We'll be putting this up on our YouTube channel, Hollywood Time Official, so you can use that if you want in your social media. And
Awesome.
like I said, everybody out there, you've got to go out there and get his Like Father, Like Daughter. It's an amazing song, and best of luck for everything. And hopefully you'll come out here to California and tour out here so we can come and see you live.
Yeah, well, you'll be one of the first to know.
All right, we hope so. Keep in touch with us, okay?
All right, will do. Thanks for having me.
Thank you.